Professor of the Institute of Applied Arts at the National Ming Chiao Tung University in Taiwan. Ivan is an artist, a designer, and an educator, and he has a strong background in science, trained as a physicist at the Max Planck Institute in Germany and Imperial College London. He is deeply interested in the underlying fundamental principles in natural and social phenomena. His current work explores the theoretical models in sciences and realizing them in the form of visual art, installation, and performances. He enjoys engaging the public and making them wonder about the internal mechanism of our world and how all things are connected by simple and elegant ideas. He founded Legacy Lab International in 2013, which is an interdisciplinary art collective consisting of multidisciplinary artists, designers, engineers, and scientists. Its work stem from research of natural and social phenomena, integrating new technology and traditional media, lying on the border between science and contemporary art. Their works have been exhibited worldwide and collected by renowned institutions. His sharing today will focus on the topic, mixing the young and the old on a tech island. So without further ado, let me hand the time over to Dr. Ivan Liu to deliver his presentation. Dr. Liu, please.
Thank you, John. And I thank the organizers for inviting me to speak at such a great event with very distinguished speakers. And so let me turn on the slide. So my work, my talk would be about mixing the young and the old. Of course, what I mean by young and old does not only refer to the age of people, but also referring to modern media and the old, let's say, historic and cultural heritages and content. As introduced by John, I'm the founder of Legacy Lab International. And currently, I just took up a new position at the National Yangming Jiao Tong University in Taiwan, as well as I've been an advisor for the Taipei city government for the past 6 or 7 years already. And as an artist who is strongly trained in science with a scientific background, I'm very interested in the underlying principle in natural and social phenomenon, especially understanding and discussing the relation between humanity and the development of science, technology, and art. The group Legacy Lab International, which I founded in 2013, consists of multidisciplinary artists, engineer, designers, and basically our creation borderlines the science and contemporary art, and we curate. We also make new media art installations, performance, interaction experiences, in immersive experiences. And we believe in scientific exploration, artistic expression, as well as dialogue. So that's our, let's say, core values when we curate shows. So in this talk, I would like to present some of our experiences in the past 10 years curating shows with other co-curators and artists. I would like to begin my talk with a brief history of Taiwan. So because this talk will be talking about examples that happen in Taiwan. So to let everyone get an overview of how the Taiwanese new media scene is taking efforts to engage public or the youth in preserving intangible cultural heritages. Okay, Taiwan is populated with about 23 million people, with the earliest settlement known by human in the old Stone Ages about 20,000, 30,000 years ago, And fast forwarding, around 600 years ago, the Austronesian farmers migrated to the island. They are believed to be the ancestor of the indigenous people in Taiwan. And then the Han Chinese, they came to settle from beginning 13th century until there's a very short colonization by the Dutch and Spanish about, let's say, 40, 50 years before they were cast out by the Qing dynasty, which happened in the 17th century. It's interesting to know that before 17th century, the China has very little, is, let's say, largely overlooked the island. And then came the Japanese rule at the end of 19th century until they were defeated at the Second World War. After that, it was the Taiwanese was returned to China. At the time, it was under the regime of Republic of China, who lost to the People's Republic of China, which is the communist regime. So the Republic of China came to Taiwan and reallocated to Taiwan, so to speak, until now. So as you can see, usually this way of storytelling for historical events is, quite heavy and sometimes, boring. The presentation is mostly text and still images, accompanied by the fact that nowadays, not only the youth, but the general public has shorter and shorter attention span due to the use of mobile devices, TV, radio, and podcasts, things like that. So there's a increasing challenge to disseminate or educate the public when we want to organize an exhibition with lots of knowledge or content. So that's the challenge. And now I'd like to introduce some of the works done by me and other curators and artists. I will present them chronologically with the historical content of these works. So we begin by the prehistoric age. And this exhibition, Reminiscence, was curated late 2019 at the Museum of Archaeology. The Museum of Archaeology and how it was built is an interesting accident. It was due to a large finding of prehistoric artifacts during the development of Southern Taiwan Science Park in the late 90s. Okay, and so basically they dug and found lots of artifacts, and they hosted the whole development, and then they built a museum to store these artifacts. And so we created a tech art exhibition, and to mark the opening of this museum, featuring 3 resident artists. And just as an example, you see at the middle of the bottom, the young media artist, Yichun Chen, she created a story about aliens coming to Earth and discover the prehistoric artifacts. He made that into an interactive work, so the viewers can become these aliens, archaeologists, so to speak, and explore the artifacts stored at the museum. And other works included kinetic light sculptures, as well as some video artwork and installations. The next up is about our indigenous culture in Taiwan. It's curated and organized by media artist Wei Jieshi. The project spanned a few years, and it's still ongoing. It's called Tribe Against the Machine, and I think it's a very beautiful example of how he made he basically created a community. It's an experimental, innovative social design project in Taiwan and aims to create opportunities for artists, hackers, activists to interact with indigenous communities. They organized workshops, forum seminars, and invited international local art and local artists, designers to lead the workshops. So as you can see, they use a lot of ETextiles, wearable devices, and LEDs to turn these traditional textiles, fashion wares into light devices or even interactive. Okay, so I think it's and this is also hands-on work. So a lot of let's say people who are not so familiar with electronics, they were able to learn about electronics, computers, as well as learning the culture of these tribes. And in 2013, it was when new media art and interactive design began to draw attention in Taiwan. National Palace Museum curated a show based on the culture in Qing Dynasty. It combined fashion, pop culture, and interactive media. And it managed to communicate the very often heavy, distant, and academic history to a wider and younger audience. So let me just show you a video on this event. So Qianlong is the emperor of the Qing Dynasty. And why is called Chiao? Chiao is in dynasty, and at the same time, it is Tung intended to information. The next up is created by the well-known media artist Xin Jianhuang. During the Japanese rule in the Ling family of a place called Wufeng in mid-Taiwan, was one of the 5 prominent family at that time in Japanese rule. Their mansion was designated as Class 1 National Heritage. It was largely destroyed in 1999 by one of the largest earthquake in Taiwan. However, it was revived. Therefore, Mirage Theater, this work told the story of the death and the rebirth. It was shown at the Wufeng Historical Theater in 2012, and it consists of interactive performance, 3D projection to give immersive experiences. It's, I think, one of the earliest new media work related to cultural heritage in Taiwan. Okay, and moving on. Very often, when we talk about cultural heritages, we overlooked the ones that are near to us. So, 诸葛四郎 was a classic Taiwanese comic series that was created by the artist Hong Jia. year in the 60s about young men who fights off demon and bandits. It's a common, it's a childhood of those who are 70s years old now in Taiwan. And the team at the Institute of Applied Arts at the National Yangming Jiaotong University, they adapt the story and the characters from the comics and created VR and interactive games to make the comics come alive.
Little Hero Wins the Match is a mixed reality game adapted from Taiwanese manga artist Yang Ming's crafty work. The speciality of this game is its connection of VR and AR technology, making multiple players interact together. With a virtual reality device, players can put themselves into the virtual manga world to defeat the enemies. To make it more interactive, other players can also join the game by moving augmented reality objects on the interaction table. AR players can either help us.
Because of the limited time, I will stop the video at that point. Okay, so basically, that's some of the examples. And I would like to talk about other possibilities with creative integration of material and media. So how it can be not just the content, but the material itself can be thought of as the main character, so to speak, in these works. I present you with one of the also earliest work we did. The name of the work is called Light Font. It's a work to create a public art that resembles the farms or urban culture in Taiwan with lighting to remind those living in the city of the rural tradition and culture of Taiwan. We created an interactive landscape art with interactive lighting. The light responds to wind in the surrounding environment, so when the wind blows, the light like waves or oceans. And the next work is Light Forest. It's a kinetic light sculpture that transformed the natural movement by gravity into dynamic lighting. The mechanism is based on a traditional toy known as the Fanshen Ban. Some people refer to it as the Jacob's ladder. It's basically a series of movements made naturally by these four. In fact, when we exhibit this work, it's usually love it, and they tend to experience the work differently than I imagine they would. For example, they will wave their hands and they are making these installation moves, by magic. So I think that's a very pleasant, pleasant find. So to summarize my talk, when we talk about engaging the children, usually people, the children think it's boring, history, cultural heritage, and what do you mean by intangible? But if you, to the other extreme, when you talk about robots and games, anime, they love it. But then you might be afraid of losing some authenticity or rigor of these contents. So in 2019 and 18, I was commissioned by the city government of Taipei to curate 2 exhibitions on smart education or STEAM education. And some of these tools or technology we presented included more, let's say, science-oriented and some arts and cultural oriented. So you can see the sparkling eyes in children's eyes. These are the kind of things that catch their attention. These there are devices to teach children about landscape as well as lines and calligraphy. You know. So to finish off my talk, sorry about the overtime. Basically, I show this famous learning pyramid. In STEAM education, it is very well known that making the pupils share their knowledge is the most effective way for them to absorb the knowledge. I think this is the general strategy to go forward, guiding students to have curiosity, critical thinking, making, and most importantly, sharing. With this, I thank you for your attention.